Robert W. Woodruff was the longtime CEO of Coca-Cola, and in nature, in hunting, fishing, and horseback riding, he could relax and reflect and refresh. Mr. Woodruff took the presidency of Coca-Cola in 1923 at the young age of 33 years old. Shortly thereafter, he and his former boss, Walter White, began purchasing land surrounding Ichauway Creek and bordered by the Flint River in Baker County in southwest Georgia. By 1941, they had amassed a property of some 36,000 acres. Mr. Woodruff hunted there often with his friend Roy Rogers and his renowned hunting dog Lloyd George. Soon enough, Woodruff brought Lloyd George to Ichauway, and Roy followed suit, serving as Ichauway's first dog trainer and land manager. These lands had once been covered by old-growth longleaf pine, but by the time Woodruff purchased the land, it had been heavily timbered and was in need of restoration and active management. So under Woodruff, the remaining longleaf pine ecosystem was carefully managed through the use of selective harvest and prescribed fire. This allowed the woodland and its understory of wiregrass and hundreds of other plants to again dominate the landscape. Robert Winship Woodruff passed away in 1985 at the age of 95. In his will, he arranged for the property to be given to the Trebor, which is Robert spelled backwards, Foundation, a charity he created in 1937. Now, he had stated in a codicil to the will his desire that Ichauway remain a wildlife sanctuary and that its natural resources be maintained and conserved. His foundation, now renamed the Robert W. Woodruff Foundation, commissioned a panel of experts to study the best use of the property. The strong recommendation was that Ichauway be preserved and managed for the conservation of its remarkable natural resources. The panel advised the creation of a privately funded, independent research center to protect and enhance the diversity that exists and retain the land management and hunting traditions that set Ichauway apart. The Jones Center at Ichauway is a realization of this vision. The center is a remarkable institution involving scientists, staff, graduate students, and outreach and conservation programs to study the woods, water, and wildlife that make this property one of a kind. It is a living laboratory in a working conservation landscape which aims to encourage the protection, restoration, and effective management of frequent fire forests of the southern coastal plain. The Jones Center at Ichauway remains a prudent steward of its resources and of Woodruff's remarkable legacy.
Ichauway and the Jones Center, to me, is a fascinating combination of a rich tradition and legacy of forest management and modern science. Certainly when Woodruff purchased the property back in the 1930s, it didn't look anything like it looks now. It had heavily been timbered before he purchased the property, and a lot of the photos that we have from that time do not look anything like the forest that we see here. So the forest that we see here is really due to active land management for decades. And thinking about this actually last night, we're coming up on a century of management of this property. So this property was built or purchased beginning in the late 1920s. So we're coming up on probably 100 years of Woodruff's impact on this land. The establishment of the Jones Center at Ichauway in really the early 1990s, late 80s, was the beginning of providing modern science and modern management techniques to really create the kind of longleaf pine habitat that we see that is really what you would have seen well before Europeans arrived here. So I'm only the second director that the Jones Center has ever had. Lindsay Boring was here from the ground up for about 26 years and really took this from being a forest into building really a world-class research center. So one of the appeals to me about coming in and becoming the director of the Jones Center was being able to build on the incredible legacy and the science knowledge that has been developed over here in the past 2.5 decades and really take it to the next level, which is really to expand our impact, let more people know about us, really share our message of conservation and science-based management far and wide. And just so much potential at this place. It's an ecosystem and a preserve like no other. You won't find any place quite like this, and just a really great example of what longleaf pine habitat can look like with extremely talented, dedicated management and outreach staff, and then just fantastic scientists who just love working here and being in this ecosystem.